Hi, I'd like to show you this endgame that occurred in the game between Kudriasov and Suetin, which was played in the USSR in 1978. Well, Suetin's last move was bishop g5, and in fact, Kudriasov decided to simply resign this position. I think that the resignation was premature, and actually a great shame because it deprived Grandmaster Alexei Suetin from demonstrating a really beautiful finish to the game. Well, on the face of it, things aren't looking too good for White. He's 2 pawns down, and the f-pawn is only 1 square away from queening on f1. Well, what is White to do? If the knight moves away, then the pawn is free to queen immediately, and so that only leaves White with one plausible first move, and that is to play king h2. And if Black in response plays bishop f4, pinning the knight, well, he's in for a bit of a surprise because White can simply go back and play king h1. And it turns out that if that knight is captured, then it's an immediate stalemate. So instead, Black has to do something else. Now in endgames, bishops are very good at playing waiting moves. You often find waiting moves or Zugzwang type ideas in bishop endings, where the move is transferred to your opponent. So here Black can wait. He can play bishop h6, offering the h-pawn. Because if White were to capture king takes h3, well, it's a different story. Now Black is perfectly free to play bishop f4. There's no stalemate, and next move Black will capture that knight, and then he'll be able to queen the pawn. So capturing on h3 is a mistake. However, White has a better move. He can simply go back and play king h1. And now Black has to decide how to proceed. Bishop f4 again turns out to be a weak move. And it's weak for the same fundamental reason as previously. In response, White can play knight f1. And were Black to capture that knight, king takes f1, it's stalemate, an immediate draw. Whereas if Black retreats his bishop and attempts to wait, well, White can play knight g3. And again, capturing the knight is stalemate. So these are not good ideas. But instead, Black has another possibility. He can play the move h2. Now, if White captures the pawn, he suffers the same fate as he did when he captured the pawn on h3. Essentially, Black can play bishop f4, pinning the knight, and next move he can take that knight and then queen the pawn. But White does not have to capture the pawn. There's no reason to abandon the waiting strategy. White can simply play king g2. And that means it's Black's move again. What to do? Well, the mistake is again to play the move bishop f4. Because if Black does this, White can again play the stalemate idea of knight f1. And if the pawn promotes, White captures the queen, and if Black takes the knight on f1, it's another stalemate. And if Black instead plays the move king e2, then White can simply go back to h1. Taking the knight is again stalemate, and if Black plays king f3, then white has knight g3. And regardless of whether the king or the bishop take the knight, we find another stalemate, another immediate draw. So bishop f4 is poor. Now this recurrent motif is telling us that black needs to be very, very careful when he places his bishop on the b8, h2 diagonal. He should only do this if the white king is on h2 or h3, because otherwise there are these stalemate tricks. So instead black plays another waiting move. He plays bishop g5. Moving the knight again leads to an immediate loss because of f1 queen, so white sticks to his waiting strategy. He goes back king h1, and now black finds another waiting move. He moves his bishop to e7. He could just as well put the bishop on d8 or f6, but let's put the bishop on e7. White carries on with his waiting game, and now black can queen the h-pawn, plays h1 queen. If the new queen is captured with the knight, black promotes, f1 equals queen, and so white must capture the queen with the king. And now black can conclude the game with the move bishop h4. Because the bishop is on the d8 h4 diagonal rather than the b8 h2 diagonal, there's no stalemate. And so next move, black is going to take that knight, and then he will finally be free to queen the pawn. So I hope you'll agree, an exquisite little piece of chess, and a very great shame that these moves were not seen over the board. Thank you for listening.